Hey guys, it is late in the summer, late August, probably September when you're seeing this, early September, but it's a special time for a special movie for me because I originally saw this movie around this time of the year. That is Mr. Bean's Holiday. It is definitely one of my favorite sort of like feel good movies, and just to make the occasion a little more feel good, I came back to the theater where I originally saw it at, the Kent State Plaza Theaters in the city of Kent, Ohio. So, I don't know, just wanted to do something special for this. So I saw this about now like 18 years ago. Yeah, I'm kind of old here. So I just want to talk about the movie a little bit. I brought the DVD here. So I've always when I originally saw this movie, it was kind of a nice time in my life, and I feel like this kind of bookended it a little bit. So this movie is kind of very nice. I like it a lot. I had a list written out of the stuff I wanted to talk about because I just watched it last night. But right now, I'll just kind of go over what I kind of think of the movie a little bit, just off the cuff of my head. Let me think. So I really kind of, I'm just going to call it the Mexico filter. You know, when movies are filmed and they're supposed to be in Mexico and they have that yellow filter, that is used a lot in this movie. But I feel like it fits because it's kind of like, it starts off in like Bean winning a contest for a vacation or holiday, title, in, rainy England. And then as he gets, and so he basically, he wants to go to the beach, basically. So the closer he gets to the beach, I feel like the yellower it becomes, which is kind of a nice little touch. And I think based on the feel-good feelings of this movie, I feel like it works, to be honest. And I feel like there is some, I feel like there's some innocence to this, and it almost makes, now, like almost 20 years later, 18 years later, whatever, it feels very almost like a nostalgic home movie because that filter really isn't used as much anymore in present day movies. The yellow filter was, I remember it was like popular around like, mid 2000s, late 90s, kind of going, it's kind of like I said, the Mexico filter, and I kind of feel like this is one of the few pictures that it fits perfectly in. Also, I really kind of like the fact that there's a lot of different languages I feel in this. I'm not sure, I honestly, I only really know English really well. I know certain things in here enough to know that like he was saying yes to everything when he said oui in French, and I thought that was kind of a fun little trope, because I feel like he got himself into a bunch of more situations than he probably really wanted to, just by not knowing languages other than English, and just kind of going with things and saying oui. Anyways, I feel like the fact that there's the language in this movie is very sparse, and there's like I said, a bunch of different languages. I don't feel like I need to know what they're saying to kind of get the gist, and I think that is an interesting thing because they will make motions, some of the other actors in the movie, and it'll just kind of make me feel like I know what they're talking about, but not exactly. And I even put subtitles on, tried to, and it was just kind of like saying something like speaking French. And I kind of dig it. I really kind of I thought the whole idea of the kid with him being like the tag along was another good thing about this. How they would try to paint an adult man hanging out with a kid or abducting a kid as some of the characters in this falsely thought. It just kind of, that I like kind of how they could do that sort of like innocent, like strange man and a little kid as a tag team duo in this a little bit. and it was just kind of a nice little fun moment. I feel like that they would just kind of, just that would just be ground into the ground as being something creepy these days. Let's see. I do. I'm just going off the top of my head here, so I might go out of order. I felt like there was like a lot of I felt like it was kind of like a more innocent version of like a more family friendly, I guess you should say, version of Dumb and Dumber, because I don't know, I'm thinking of Crash, that song that he was riding his bike to as well, but just that being stranded in kind of like the middle of nowhere in those fields a little bit kind of made me think that too. And I felt like just that idea of him kind of like trying to steal that bike, that also reminds me of Dumb and Dumber, So I do like also the fact that I like Willem Dafoe's character too. I like how he kind of becomes like kind of almost enlightened by Bean at the end, and I feel like that is a thing that is often not really done, let's say, because they'll often try to make the main villain or the antagonist kind of like look sitting in the corner with egg on his face looking like a jerk, and then the good guy wins, he gets the girl. But I feel like it's like, I guess you could say heaven or something. I don't know. It's probably like referring to some movie that I haven't seen from silent film era or like the 50s or something, or some foreign film. But I like the idea that they're all just kind of like hanging out on the beach, kind of like enlightened with each other. Bean just wants to see the beach, and the whole thing with the camera, the little, I actually have this camera here, the whole, like that they do with the camera in the film is kind of just, I feel like it's very, I like how kind of there's that teachable moment that, Bean was just goofing off, and like it's caught on. Almost kind of like, almost like Bean was like the physical embodiment of like those happy accidents, viral videos around that time, like Star Wars Kid and the Numa Numa guy. I feel like that kind of, I almost feel like that's what they were going for a little bit, with Bean just sort of like just being himself and just kind of becoming a sensation a little bit. And I don't know, I think there was a lot of like powerful movements in the movie too, I guess you could say. Again, I think the whole idea of him just hanging out in the middle of that like flowery field was a beautiful visual. And also sort of like the camcorder thing, which again, I actually kind of like filming it on this because it kind of inspired the idea a little too. But the whole like camcorder thing, it just kind of gives it another realm of fuzziness, I guess you should say. So moving on to so the end of the film, I kind of like the whole take on those like uppity, artsy movies with the whole Willem Dafoe, Carson Clay thing. And I feel like that was a nice little, I like how it was like a nice little friendly jab at that, kind of. Oh yeah. One thing I do like too is I feel like it was before sort of like the censorship culture really jumped on board, because there is like a guy jumping off a bridge in the movie, and also a lot of like the stuff with the Nazi salutes Mr. Bean's doing. It's funny, and I think it's like kind of like I kind of felt like it was before the filter. Like I felt like it was funny in that regard, because it was kind of like, he's just goofing off. Anyways, I really like Mr. Bean's Holiday, and it's something I kind of like watch around this time of the year, because it always kind of reminds me of like, just the whole thing with him walking onto that beach super excited. That's like one of the best happy endings I've ever seen in a movie. And I feel like that's almost kind of like the feeling of like transitioning from summer into fall a little bit for me personally. I don't know if a lot of people out there just don't like fall because it starts getting cold and pools close and all that stuff. But I kind of always like that transition from say, the mid-August to like mid-September a little bit, It's kind of a nice feeling. It's beautiful outside. It's beautiful outside right now. It's very nice and crisp. And so I don't know, it just puts me in the mood to watch a feel-good movie like this. And I'm reviewing it right here for you guys. Lucky you, I suppose. Anyways, I'm probably going to just cut it right there and say, if you haven't seen it, I'd recommend it. Actually, I'm not going to cut it right there. I have a little bit more to say. I think this is one of those rare movies that has like a sequel that's as good as its original. The original Mr. Bean movie, I would say. I think, like, for example, like Ace Ventura movies, and I think Home Alone, the first two Home Alones, are quite like that. One of the things I saw, somebody presented a good idea about this movie, is the fact that the whole movie is like Mr. Bean's dead and he's trying to find the afterlife, which I think is an interesting concept because the whole thing is it feels very surreal almost, maybe I should have said that sooner in life, but sooner in this little review here, but it just feels very surreal. Like, I feel like it's almost a dream, kind of like a very happy dream, don't get me wrong, but that's why I kind of just like the movie a lot. It's just a shot of happiness, I guess you can say. Well, anyways, I'm going to go for real this time. I'm gonna go now. Have a good one.